Left ourselves off in Genesis chapter 25, where we're looking at the death of Abraham. Now, this was attended to by his two sons, Ishmael and Isaac, and we're going to be following God's promises through Isaac. And this is going to be also complicated because it's going to be between two sons yet again. But unlike what happened with Ishmael and Isaac, where Ishmael was he's a child of the law, a child reflecting how things work in this world, versus Isaac, who is a child of promise, the one who is receiving all the blessings of God. God is raising into life. Isaac's kids will be sharing a lot, especially because they're twins. As we can probably surmise, they're going to be fraternal twins because Esau is hairy, Jacob is not. But we're going to be looking at these twins and what's going on with them. This will also lead us into questions of, God's foresight, predestination, and election. So stay tuned for that. So in Genesis chapter 25, beginning at verse 19, so this is the account of Abraham's son Isaac. Abraham became the father of Isaac, and Isaac was 40 years old when he married Rebekah, daughter of Bethuel, the Aramean from Padan Aram, and sister of Laban, the Aramean. Isaac prayed to the Lord on behalf of his wife because she was barren. The Lord answered his prayer, and his wife Rebekah became pregnant. So this suggests that this is also a miraculous birth. Like exactly how miraculous it is, we don't have a lot of pomp and circumstance, such as Isaac's birth or Jesus' birth or John the Baptist or other major figures like that. So maybe it wasn't supposed to be looked upon as that miraculous. I don't know. But in any case, the Lord favored the prayer of his servant Isaac. And with verse 22, the babies jostled each other within her, and she said, "Why is this happening to me?" So she went to inquire of the Lord. So basically she's pregnant with two boys, and sibling rivalry already begins when they're fetuses. They're already going at it. Okay. So verse 23. The Lord said to her, "Two nations are in your womb, and two peoples from within you will be separated. One people will be stronger than the other, and the older will serve the younger." So God already is saying, there's going to be animosity here. You have, two entire nations, so it's not going to be like Abraham where he's going to be blessing all nations. There's going to be one nation that comes from him, but there's going to be two nations. But as we're going to find, when God is saying the older will serve the younger is going to receive the fullness of the promises of God, and if the older wishes to receive those promises, he has to live in good relation with those who receive the promises. So similar to what we would find with, the church and everybody else is like, yes, we're very diverse in this world, but unless you were in Christ, unless you were joined to him, then you're outside of this, outside of the promises, and you really need to come in. Anyways, so verse 24. When the time came for her to give birth, there were twin boys in her womb. The first to come out was red, and his whole body was like a hairy garment. So they called him Esau. So Esau will also be called Edom. And I think I mentioned this before. Well, maybe I should actually use red for this. So we got Esau, but his other name being Edom. If you actually went into the Hebrew, I'm doing that backwards for Hebrew. Anyways, that's a he. That's not an aleph. What am I doing? I'm doing Greek.
Greek to me.
There we go. That's an aleph. So these are the same consonants as the name Adam. So that would be. Is that Yeah, no, that's not it. So it would be Adam, but if you just rework that, it's now Edom. So yeah, his name is also linked to earthiness, redness of the earth, fruitful soil, iron, what have you. But yes, he's known for being hairy, and that will come up as almost, if you will, a plot point later on. Anyways, so after this, his brother came out with his hand grasping Esau's heel. So he was called Jacob, or Yaakov, and it is basically meaning to grasp onto. And it's hard to say exactly how this came about, but most likely what happened is, just by looking at Jacob's life, Yaakov, or the phrase to grasp the heel, becomes a turn of phrase meaning to trick or to deceive. Yes. So it's grasping the heel. And yes, it says, Isaac was 60 years old when Rebekah gave birth to them. So he and Rebekah were trying for 20 years, did not work. And now you have Jacob and Esau. And yes, they're going to be rivals. So I'll cover their childhood, and then I'll get into some of the issues with them. Okay. So the childhood is continuing on for the rest of this chapter, Genesis chapter 25. So the boys grew up, and Esau became a skillful hunter, a man of the open country, while Jacob was a quiet man staying among the tents. Isaac, who had a taste for wild game, loved Esau, but Rebekah loved Jacob. And Rebekah would also know that, well, this would be the way that she should go, because as the Lord spoke to her, the younger will be the one in charge. So of course she's going to be looking to Isaac and thinking like, well, this is going to be the one. But also, if Isaac is staying towards the tents, that would be more related to where the women would be taking care of things at this time period, whereas men would be more the foragers and hunters. Women would be more looking after what's going in the tents, because the idea would be, of course, men would not just be going out to get food, but also be more in terms of defense. They don't want to have women go out and possibly being overcome by whatever's out there. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So since Jacob is staying closer to the tents, you have Rebekah being more with him. But since Esau is kind of being the more masculine man, makes sense why Isaac might go more with him. Anyway, verse 29. Once when Jacob was cooking some stew, Esau came in from the open country famished. He said to Jacob, "Quick, let me have some of that red stew. I'm famished." And that's the note. This is also why it's called Edom, because of the red stew, not just his red hair. Yep. And Jacob replied, "First sell me your birthright." And Esau said, "Look, I am about to die. What good is the birthright to me?" But Jacob said, "Swear to me first." So he swore an oath to him, selling his birthright to Jacob. Then Jacob gave Esau some bread and some lentil stew. He ate and drank and then got up and left. So Esau despised his birthright. So this is going to be the main issue that's going to be brought up with the two brothers. Okay, so we've got Esau/Edom as of the red stew, and maybe I'll do green for Jacob. Or again in Hebrew, Yaakov. Who's older, who's younger?
Esau's the older.
Yeah, so we got one, and you got two. All right. So who would get the birthright, or the lion's share of the inheritance of his father?
It would be Esau.
Yeah. So he would be the one who would most naturally get the birthright, because this is his right as the eldest. And for twins, this is seems to be a little bit unfair because you're like, well, it's this. They're coming out at the same time. It's like, well, no, this one is slightly before the other.
Right.
It's like, well, that's annoying. I lost by, I don't know, 2 minutes, and now I have to pay this for the rest of my life. In any case, so does Jacob have any right to the birthright? Yeah, not this birthright. We could definitely say that he has a right to inheritance from his father by virtue of him being his father's son. But Jacob has no legitimate claim to this. So when Esau comes up and asks his brother, give me some stew, and Jacob is saying, well, not unless you give me your birthright, he's asking for something he absolutely should not be asking, because this is inherent to the eldest. Yeah. Do you remember the parable of the prodigal son?
Not verbatim.
Okay. So the beginning of the prodigal son is you have two brothers, there's an elder and a younger. And the younger decides that he wants his share of the inheritance, and he's going to squander it, of course. But while he's squandering it in sinful living, that's when he turns and he comes back. Okay. So that's the prodigal son. The father loves his son so much that he welcomes him back. But I want to focus on a little bit there at the beginning where he says, I want my birthright now. So when you're asking for these sorts of things out of turn, like this is a huge offense, because when would you normally receive the birthright?
On the death.
Yes. So he's basically going up to his father saying, hey, you're not dying fast enough. I want to spend all your money now, old man.
Yeah, are you dead yet? Yeah.
I know, yeah. So it's very much an assault against the honor of the father, as well as, well, basically a societal insult. Like, how dare he do this? So he's kind of the worst upon the worst in the parable of the prodigal son. So Jacob, not quite doing that, not wishing the death of his father, but definitely saying, well, I would like your birthright, elder brother. Well, Jacob could receive this if his elder brother dies. So you could say, well, Jacob wants his brother to die, but Jacob is saying, well, no, you're going to die if you don't eat this, so give me the birthright. So if Jacob really wanted to say to his brother, drop dead, so he could receive this, all he really had to do was waste some time, and then his brother would die of hunger. Not that that would exactly happen. Most likely Esau is just exaggerating, and Jacob actually knows the story. So Jacob is seeing that his brother is being overzealous in how he's describing things. Like, oh, I'm going to die if I don't eat something right now. And thus he's like, okay, well, if you are actually feeling that way, give me your whole birthright. Give me everything that you, well, not quite everything, but give me the lion's share of what our father has. And so he's definitely asking for this out of turn, but he's also showing a faithfulness that his brother is not. So this is the weird thing, that even though Jacob is operating in not exactly deceptive terms here, he's not being deceptive, he's being pretty upfront about this, but even though he's a bit of a trickster, he is still more faithful than his brother. Because the promises that he's after here in the birthright are the promises that God gave to Abraham, also to Isaac. So if Isaac's going to go and meet his maker, quite literally, the promises will then fall down to, well, whichever son has the birthright. So Jacob, realizing this is exactly what I need and want, is actually acting in greater faith than his brother, who's going, well, I'd rather trade worldly goods for all the promises of God. And it's also for, I'd say, temporal, because if we're going like, oh, well, I'll sell you my eternal salvation. That's not quite what's going on with the birthright. But if I will sell you eternity if you give me something to make me last for another day in this world. Give me another meal so that I can live in this world rather than me sustaining myself until sustaining myself in faith so that I can look into eternity. And this is also what we find with Christians, is we're kind of going back and forth between this, where we recognize that we are being pulled more towards the worldly, the temporal, and we do want to be more faithful unto God, because that way lies the eternal, the infinite. So we don't want the worldly because we want, well, everything related to God and eternal life. So Jacob's actually starting to see that. Whether or not he fully realizes it, that's debatable. But definitely he sees more in the promises of God than his brother Esau. So I'll also put here God's promises in the birthright. So Esau is, as the text says, he despises his birthright, and he basically sells this to his brother for a worldly temporal gain. And really that's what we find the nature of sin being, is you're going like, well, I get to have this thing that gives me pleasure or some sort of advancement for a very short period of time in a very limited sense, and I will engage in this sin and lose out on all that God can give me. Which is why we need to turn to Christ and his forgiveness again and again, because we keep losing this struggle within us. But also, as we look to struggling with God, Jacob will also be an interesting mentor in that sense. So we'll get to that, and it's also going to kind of come into the story with his brother. Anyways, okay, so Jacob is actually seen as, yes, kind of a trickster, but he's also being more faithful unto the Lord. So now he also has the birthright, and his father presumably does not know this, or maybe he does not acknowledge it. Maybe he does know that this happened, but he's unwilling to actually give the birthright to Jacob based on
Jacob is asking out of turn, but Esau has no grounds to give it away.
Well, he would, in the sense that since it is his, and we can argue about when exactly that would occur, because it would absolutely go to him on his father's deathbed. Now, his father would be leaving that to him. So if you have kind of a stipulation, let's say a father dies, has a will to 2 children, and those children are like, aha, well, dad left me a lot more than he left you. It's like, well, I have this IOU that we signed, so legally you owe me what you received, and I'll give you what I received. So there can be that agreement upon the actual giving of the promise. But it is by right Esau's. So you could say, well, he hasn't received it yet, but you could still try to give it away in the present. Yeah. We find that the prophecy of God rings true. So God is saying that the older will serve the younger. So the birthright is basically received by the younger, whereas the elder will have to subserviate himself to the younger so that he can receive the blessings of that promise. So at which point, we have to ask ourselves, what on earth is going on with the brothers? Is this something that God has ordained? Are they actually acting out of their own free will, or is God trying to orchestrate the whole thing? And I'm jumping into it a little bit early because we can definitely get into it even more, because there's also going to be a part to play with Jacob receiving the promise. But I do want us to think a little bit about, well, what does this actually mean for our lives in faith? Okay. But let's actually get to the giving of the promise before we jump into predestination and election. Okay. So I'll skip over chapter 26 because it's not dealing specifically with Jacob and Esau. Still interesting to read, of course. Still good to know. But yeah, I'll focus on Jacob and Esau rather than Isaac. Okay. So in chapter 27, when Isaac was old and his eyes were so weak that he could no longer see, he called for Esau, his older son, and said to him, "My son." "Here I am," he answered. Isaac said, "I am now an old man and don't know the day of my death. Now then, get your weapons, your quiver and bow, and go out to the open country to hunt some wild game for me. Prepare me the kind of tasty food I like, and bring it to me to eat, so that I may give you my blessing before I die." Now Rebekah was listening as Isaac spoke to his son Esau. When Esau left for the open country to hunt game and bring it back, Rebekah said to her son Jacob, "Look, I overheard your father say to your brother Esau, 'Bring me some game and prepare me some tasty food to eat, so that I may give you my blessing in the presence of the Lord before I die. Now, my son, listen carefully and do what I tell you. Go out to the flock and bring me 2 choice young goats, so I can prepare some tasty food for your father just the way he likes it. Then take it to your father to eat, so that he may give you his blessing before he dies.'" So now Rebekah is scheming in this as well, and again what are exactly her motivations? So we don't properly know. Is it nepotism towards Jacob? Is it because she's recognizing what the Lord has said in prophecy before, that Jacob should be the one receiving this? Is it because she actually knows earlier on that Esau sold his birthright to Jacob and therefore shouldn't actually have it anymore? Don't know. But on that last note, yes, Esau should actually not have that, because when we're looking into this, Esau is acting in disbelief. Who receives the promises of God? Yes, those who are joined to God in faith. So by virtue of his disbelief, because he is not seeing this as valuable, because he's rejecting basically the gravity of God's promises, because he's going to the worldly and temporal rather than the godly, then Esau should absolutely not receive these promises. And we would say, no way that he can, because God's promises are received by faith. Or as you would find in Ephesians chapter 2, you were saved by grace. So grace is the promises of God fulfilled, the free gift of salvation. So you were saved by grace through faith. So if you don't have the conduit or vehicle of faith to receive these promises, there's no possible way Isaac can shove these down Esau's throat so that God would honor them. Isaac can't tell God what to do. So how faithful Rebekah is being is also some question, but regardless, she wants her son Jacob to receive these things. So Jacob is all for this apparently, because in verse 11 he says, "But my brother Esau is a hairy man, and I am a man with smooth skin. What if my father touches me? I would appear to be tricking him and would bring down a curse on myself rather than a blessing." His mother said to him, "My son, let the curse fall on me. Just do what I say. Go and get them for me." So, and I should probably mention, if there is a curse as brought about, Rebekah is being as somewhat of a Christ-like figure, because she's looking for the benefit of promise for somebody else, but at the cost of her own well-being. So this is the sacrificial law, basically to bring about the promises of God. So yes, Rebekah is acting in faith, at least in this respect. Okay. Verse 14, Jacob went and got them, that is the goats, and brought them to his mother, and she prepared some tasty food just the way his father liked it. Then Rebekah took the best clothes of Esau, her older son, which she had in the house, and put them on her younger son Jacob. She also covered his hands and the smooth part of his neck with the goatskins. Then she handed to her son Jacob some tasty food and the bread she had made. He went to his father and said, "My father!" "Yes, my son," he answered. "Who is it?" Jacob said to his father, "I am Esau, your firstborn. I have done as you told me. Please sit up and eat some of my gains, so that you may give me your blessing." Isaac asked his son, "How did you find it so quickly, my son?" "The Lord your God gave me success," he replied. Then Isaac said to Jacob, "Come near, so I can touch you, to know whether you really are my son Esau or not." Jacob went close to his father, Isaac, who touched him and said, "The voice is the voice of Jacob, but the hands are the hands of Esau." He did not recognize him, for his hands were hairy like those of his brother Esau, so he blessed him. And this also gives you some idea of just how hairy Esau was. If you could put on a goat pelt and it's like, "Oh yeah, you're definitely my son now." This could also be, I can't remember the exact name of it, but there is one condition that is recognized to be similar to lycanthropy, where somebody is completely covered in hair. Yeah. So, does Esau have this condition? Anyways. So are you really my son Esau, he asked. "I am," he replied. Then he said, "My son, bring me some of your game to eat, so that I may give you my blessing." Jacob brought it to him, and he ate, and brought some wine, and he drank. Then his father Isaac said to him, "Come here, my son, and kiss me." So he went to him and kissed him. When Isaac caught the smell of his clothes, he blessed him and said, "Ah, the smell of my son is like the smell of a field that the Lord has blessed. May God give you of heaven's dew, and of earth's richness, an abundance of grain and new wine. May nations serve you, and peoples bow down to you. Be Lord over your brothers, and may the sons of your mother bow down to you. May those who curse you be cursed, and those who bless you be blessed." So you can notice that this is decently different than exactly what God's promise was to Abraham. But he's still saying, well, God give you what is properly due to heaven and to earth, and may nations serve you. So lordship over nations, which definitely was with what we find with Abraham very explicitly. And there's also something more specific in this, where Isaac is saying, well, not just other nations, other peoples, but also even your brothers and your sons, like all of them. Oh, sorry. The sons of your mother bow down to you. Sorry, just the brothers, but your brothers also be subservient to you. So even within the family, there is now going to be a lineage that needs to be followed. And this is going to be important for us as we look to Jesus Christ and the lineage of Jesus Christ, because there can only be one Lord Jesus Christ. You can't just have everybody in the nation of Israel being the Messiah. That does not work. So everybody is depending on Jesus Christ. So all these things need to narrow down to one. Anyways. And then the closing, may those who curse you be cursed, those who bless you be blessed, absolutely also in Abraham's promise. So everything is concentrating on, well, the individual Jacob for God to work in this world. Similar to how it was for Isaac, similar to how it was for Abraham. Okay. So after Isaac finished blessing him, and Jacob had scarcely left his father's presence, his brother Esau came in from hunting. He too prepared some tasty food and brought it to his father. And he said to him, "My father, sit up and eat some of my game, so that you may give me your blessing." His father Isaac asked him, "Who are you?" "I am your son," he answered, "your firstborn Esau." Isaac trembled violently and said, "Who was it then that hunted game and brought it to me? I ate it just before you came, and I blessed him, and indeed he will be blessed." When Esau heard his father's words, he burst out with a loud and bitter cry and said to his father, "Bless me too, my father." But he said, "Your brother came deceitfully and took your blessing." Esau said, "Isn't he rightly named Jacob?" So he grasped the heel. "He has deceived me these 2 times. He took my birthright, and now he's taking my blessing." Then he asked, "Haven't you reserved any blessing for me?" Isaac answered Esau, "I have made him lord over you, and have made all his relatives his servants, and I have sustained him with grain and new wine. So what can I do for you, my son? Esau said to his father, Do you have only one blessing, my father? Bless me too. Then Esau wept aloud. His father Isaac answered him, Your dwelling will be away from the earth's richness, away from the dew of heaven above. You will live by the sword, and you will serve your brother. When you grow restless, you will throw his yoke off from your neck. So this is basically what's left is you have to fight your brother for everything. If God is giving everything to Jacob, then you basically have to either serve him or fight him. And the initial issue is going to be fighting, but as we'll find, there is at least a glimmer of willingness to serve, and that comes up in another several chapters. We won't get there right now. So I'll stop here. I'll just mention that for the rest of the chapter, what's going on is Jacob realizes Esau is back and that Esau will kill him. So his mother sends Jacob off to live with her brother, and so Jacob is going back, and it says that he's going to Haran. So this Haran was where Abraham's brother was. So there is some distant connection there. But yes, Jacob is fleeing far away so that his brother won't kill him.